Hi, welcome to Youth Sunday School. Today we're going to talk about Joseph. So, without further ado, let's just go ahead and read the story. It's kind of long, buckle up. Before we read the scripture, one thing I want to explain, because it can get confusing, is Israel and Jacob are the same person. If you remember the story of Jacob wrestling with God by the river, God renamed him Israel. And so in this story, Jacob and Israel are interchanged as two different names for the same guy. Reading Genesis chapter 37 from the Common English Bible translation. Jacob lived in the land of Canaan, where his father was an immigrant. This is the account of Jacob's descendant. Joseph was 17 years old and tended the flock with his brothers. While he was helping the sons of Bilhah and Zilpah, his father's wives, Joseph told their father unflattering things about them. Now Israel loved Joseph more than any of his other sons, because he was born when Jacob was old. Jacob had made for him a long robe. When his brothers saw that their father loved him more than any of his brothers, they hated him and couldn't even talk nicely to him. Joseph had a dream and told it to his brothers, which made them hate him even more. He said to them, "Listen to this dream I had. When we were binding stalks of grain in the field, my stalk got up and stood upright, while your stalks gathered around and bowed to my stalk." His brothers said to him, "Will you really be our king and rule over us?" So they hated him even more because of the dreams he told them. Then Joseph had another dream and described it to his brothers. "I've just dreamed again, and this time the sun and the moon and the 11 stars were bowing down to me." When he described it to his father and brothers, his father scolded him and said to him, "What kind of dreams have you dreamed? Am I and your mother and your brother supposed to come and bow down to the ground in front of you?" His brothers were jealous of him, but his father took careful note of the matter. Joseph's brothers went to tend their father's flocks near Shechem. Israel said to Joseph, "Aren't your brothers tending the sheep near Shechem? Come, I'll send you to them." And he said, "I'm ready." Jacob said to him, "Go, find out how your brothers are and how the flock is, and report back to me." So Jacob sent him from the Hebron valley. When he approached Shechem, a man found him wandering in the field and asked him, "What are you looking for?" Joseph said, "I'm looking for my brothers. Tell me, where are they tending the sheep?" The man said, "They left here. I heard them saying, 'Let's go to Dothan.'" So Joseph went after his brothers and found them in Dothan. They saw Joseph in the distance before he got close to them, and they plotted to kill him. The brothers said to each other, "Here comes the big dreamer. Come on, now let's kill him and throw him into one of the cisterns, and we'll say a wild animal devoured him. Then we will see what becomes of his dreams." When Reuben heard what they said, he saved him from them, telling them, "Let's not take his life." Reuben said to them, "Don't spill his blood. Throw him into this desert cistern, but don't lay a hand on him." He intended to save Joseph from them and take him back to his father. When Joseph reached his brothers, they stripped off Joseph's long robe, took him and threw him into the cistern, an empty cistern with no water in it. When they sat down to eat, they looked up and saw a caravan of Ishmaelites coming from Gilead, with camels carrying sweet resin, medicinal resin, and fragrant resin on their way down to Egypt. Judah said to his brothers, "What do we gain if we kill our brother and hide his blood? Come on, let's sell him to the Ishmaelites. Let's not harm him because he's our brother, he's family." His brothers agreed. When some Midianite traders passed by, they pulled Joseph up out of the cistern. They sold him to the Ishmaelites for 20 pieces of silver, and they brought Joseph to Egypt. When Reuben returned to the cistern and found that Joseph wasn't in it, he tore his clothes. Then he returned to his brothers and said, "The boy's gone, and where can I go now?" His brothers took Joseph's robe, slaughtered a male goat, and dipped the robe in blood. They took the long robe, brought it to their father, and said, "We found this. See if it's your son's robe or not." He recognized it and said, "It's my son's robe. A wild animal has devoured him. Joseph must have been torn to pieces." Then Jacob tore his clothes, put on a simple mourning cloth around his waist, and mourned his son for many days. All of his sons and daughters got up to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted, telling them, "I'll go to my grave mourning for my son." And Joseph's father wept for him. Meanwhile, the Midianites had sold Joseph to the Egyptians, to Potiphar, Pharaoh's chief officer, commander of the royal guard. So that is Act 1 of the story of Joseph. Dramatic, right? No wonder they made a musical out of it. Now for some fun facts about this scripture, because we love context. Joseph is Jacob's son, and if you remember, Jacob is Isaac's son, and Isaac is Abraham's son. Joseph is also Rachel's son. Rachel and Jacob had Joseph together, and it's arguable that Rachel was Jacob's favorite wife. Jacob picked favorites among his family. So between Jacob's 4 different wives, Joseph had many siblings, but Jacob made it no secret that his favorite was Joseph. So our first big fun fact is the Hebrew word that describes the robe or the coat that Jacob gave to Joseph only appears rarely in Scripture. It's traditionally translated as multicolored, but it could also mean the palms of the hands or the soles of the feet. So the New Revised Standard Version has translated it as a long robe with sleeves. In short, we aren't totally sure what the word means that describes the robe that was given to Joseph. My favorite interpretation is that it's very colorful. Fun fact 2, if the robe is in fact multicolored or rainbow colored, then it adds symbolism to the story. It acts as a symbol of the bridge between God and humanity, and kind of makes Joseph to be a bridge between God and humanity. His ability to dream and interpret dreams suggests that he has a special connection to God and to God's knowledge. Okay, but my big question is, why does Joseph keep sharing his dreams with his brothers if it only serves to make them angry at him? He does it one time and says, "I've had a dream that you're all gonna bow down to me," and his whole family makes fun of him and gets mad at him. And so he decides to share another dream that everyone's gonna bow down to him. That seems like he's just kind of bringing trouble down on his own head. But then I think about how Joseph was the runt of his family and clearly different from all the other brothers that he had. He kind of wasn't masculine or manly in all the right ways, and so they made fun of him a lot, I imagine, just for being so different and so little and young. Our third and final fun fact is the way that Joseph's brothers lie to their father Jacob mirrors the way that Jacob lied to his father Isaac. So if you remember, Jacob and Esau were twins, and Esau was technically born first, and Esau was big and hairy, and Jacob was small and not as hairy. So Jacob put on goat skins and hairs to go in and see his father Isaac before Isaac died so that he could trick Isaac into thinking he was Esau instead of Jacob, and effectively stole Esau's birthright by lying to their dad. And then Jacob's own sons come around and lie to him too and say, "Oh no, your favorite son died. Guess he got eaten by wild animals." Makes you wonder. So what is the lesson that we are supposed to learn from this first part of Joseph's story? It's tough being this amazing. Silly jokes aside, what is the lesson of the story of Joseph? I think the lesson is that we need to be true to ourselves. We need to continue being who we are unapologetically. We shouldn't try and conform to what everyone around us wants us to be if we're different. It's okay to be different, and ultimately, if you live your life as who you are rather than who you feel like you're supposed to be, then your life is going to be infinitely more beautiful and interesting. So be authentically who God made you to be. Have a great week. We'll have Bible study Tuesday night, youth group Wednesday night. Check out the youth webpage at the website for more details. Love y'all!